What is your best hold on? It gets worse stories? I guess I can tell this to Reddit. A few years ago, I was looking to start teaching at a school closer to home. After all, I lived on the other side of town and I couldn't really make the drive anymore and still have time to be with my kids for their stuff. My principal supported my request and suggested that I might be a good fit for high school. Well, I get certified and no positions are open. No big deal. I'll stay another year until the week before school, when the principal of the local high school calls me and tells me he has a position for me. I accept and move all my stuff over. Not easy, since I had already finished decorating my elementary classroom and started planning the curriculum. I'm still excited. I pack what I can and manage to get everything over with intercar trips, and I leave the rest for the other teacher to scavenge. Now, you Reddit teachers know what kind of work goes into setting up a classroom and planning for the year. It's hard, even when you've been doing it for a while. Now imagine jumping up 5 grade levels and not knowing the first thing about the curriculum. Stressful. But I handled it. I later find out I'm pregnant. After us trying for a while. Great. I'm happy with my job. Happy with our growing family. Everything's coming up Milhouse. Except for my classes. The school was overfilled, and controlling students was difficult for me, especially coming up from elementary. No big deal. I'm still making it through. Here's where things go south. One day, I decided to try the cafeteria for lunch. I don't make it 5 steps in the door before I slip on some ice and twist my ankle. My pride's bruised, but everyone was kind. I'm told I have to go to a workers' comp doctor. I go, and they insist on taking an x-ray. I tell them my condition, and they say don't worry, they'll put lead on my tummy and nothing will be hurt. And maybe that was true, but I'll always wonder. I went down to Austin to see a friend's movie, and I start having tummy pain. No big deal. We get to Austin, meet our friend for lunch, and our 2 kids are going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I knew they weren't going to sit through a movie that didn't interest them, and I was crabby, so I figured I'd take my kids to see the state capitol. We played games on the lawn and went in to take a tour. After the tour, we wandered about a bit, and I suddenly felt a huge pain. I went to the bathroom and I'm bleeding profusely. I called my husband, picked him up halfway through the movie, and drove to the hospital near home, where I was told I was probably going to have a miscarriage. And I did. Stupid me. I go to work the next day. When you're ready to break inside, don't ever get near high school kids. Even though they had no idea, every little bit of disrespect talking when I'm giving instruction. A little eye roll became another stab in the heart. The worst part was, I knew no one at this school who cared for me. If this had been at my old school, I would have had people who I could have shared this with. Oh. But it gets worse. A month later, one of my husband's best friends dies. A good man who did a whole lot of good for this world. Oh. But it gets worse. The day after Christmas, my parents have their home destroyed in a tornado. It does get better. I'm in a deep depression at this point, and know that I have to do something to climb out. So, after years of talking about it, I decided duck the cost. I'm going to enroll in grad school, and that's the story of how I got my master's degree. One morning I noticed there were a few pieces of trash in front of my neighbor's house, so I decided to be nice and pick them up. One of those pieces of trash was a half-full bottle of chocolate milk which slipped out of my hand as I picked it up. While it was in midair I instinctively tried to catch it, and of course rotten chocolate milk splattered all over me. It was the worst smell ever. I felt like an idiot. I headed back to my house to clean up. I was pissed that I had to pretty much start my day over again. It was then that I realized I was being bitten by the hundreds of ants that were inside the chocolate milk bottle. A contractor we hired decided to piss in the snow in our driveway instead of in the toilet in the very bathroom he was retiling. Hold on. It gets worse. He then broke our actual toilet. Like chipped a 2-inch chunk off of it. Hold on. It gets worse. He thought we hadn't noticed and tried to surreptitiously replace it with a similar looking new toilet. Copy pasted from my TIFF post because good god. If I ever had a story that fit this bill, this one is it. You know how everyone has that one party story, the one that, no matter how hard you try, will never be topped. Well, I'm a second year college student who attends a university that likes to go by the mantra of work hard, play hard, and this is that story. A couple of weeks ago, I was invited to a pretty big annual event at my school that had a reputation of having a pretty wild after party. My buddy, let's call him Dewey, had just finished his semester and I hadn't. So he was pretty bored back in our hometown. I figured that, since he had nothing to do back at home, I would bring him to the after party and he could crash back at my dorm for the night, have a good time and all that. And we did. We had a ducking fantastic time. Even made it back to my dorm in one piece somehow. I thought we just went back and crashed. But apparently some serious shit went down after the party that I didn't hear about until later. And by then there was nothing I could do except laugh and think there's no way that happened. So fast forward to the morning after. It's windy as all heck outside, and Dewey and I are sitting at a dining hall having some delicious hangover food. Suddenly, this conversation comes up. Dude, I did something last night. What did you do? Something bad. Dewey, what the heck did you do? Then he hits me with what actually happened that night after we left the party. Apparently, I was too blacked out to remember, but he definitely wasn't. And once he started recalling the story, I began to remember the shit show that transpired afterwards. To this day, whenever I tell this story, people don't believe me until I show them, but I'll get to that later. So we leave the party, stumble our way back to the dorm, and get into the elevator. Since I live on the 7th floor, we get out of the elevator without incident and kind of just plop down in my floor's lounge, which was thankfully empty. Seems alright. But then Dewey throws up. Ducking. Everywhere. On the couch. On the study tables. On the floor. On the goddamn walls. No surface was safe from his wrath. At this point, I'm already disgusted and thinking, oh duck. He's my guest, so I'm responsible for this, oh duck housing probation, here I come. But then it got worse. It got so much worse. After the puke apocalypse, he then says he has to go. So I hand him my ID card so he can swipe into the bathroom, which I should mention is a mere 20 feet away from us. But he turns me down and says, no a-hole here man. I gotta go now. Like right now. And it's gonna be a big one. Dewey then opens my lounge window, sticks his butt cheeks out, and proceeds to release the kraken all over the side of my precious dormitory building. And when I say release the kraken, I mean it. The immediate assault to my senses told me that it was easily the most disgusting toilet slammer I've ever been witness to in my entire life, including my own. Imagine every terrible shit you've ever taken multiplied by the fiery passion of 1,000 burning suns. It was like watching the slime fall and splatter everywhere on the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. The sound it made was awful too, like something just died and these were its final gurgles. Just the ducking smell alone probably could have killed most small animals. He finishes unleashing his unholy intestinal sewage all over the side of my building, while I sit there just to gape, but too drunk to do anything about it. Then we nonchalantly stroll back to my room and promptly pass out. Back to the present, I'm horrified. Disgusted. Never in my life would I have imagined I would be privy to anything like this. But hey, what's done is done. Duck it. No harm done, right? Wrong. I make my way back to my building and ride the elevator up so that I can relax and nurse my hangover. In the elevator, I hear this conversation between two girls. I can't believe someone did that to our lounge. Yeah, that's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. It smelled pretty bad in there too. The cleaning lady says it's either really bad throw up or something way worse. Do they know who did it? I don't know. But they must have been living higher up to hit floor 4. At least it didn't get inside or anything. Now I'm curious. And I think I know exactly what happened. So I get off on the 4th floor, enter their lounge, and lo and behold, I see shit. Yep, that's Dewey's shit. Smeared all over the window of the lounge 3 floors below me. Apparently, some people were peacefully studying at 3 in the morning the night that this shit went down when all of a sudden, wham, Dewey's butt babies slammed into their window hard enough to make the glass shake. The wind must have hurled it sideways mid-descent, causing his work of art to splatter onto their window with a resounding thud. I take one good look and smell, snap the picture, and flee to my room practically dying from laughter. Then I tell pretty much all of our friends back at home because, come on, how do you not tell everyone about that? I didn't tell any of my college friends though. I don't need that kind of blood poop on my hands, and for good reason. Admin heard about it and basically put out a warrant for the capture of whoever did the deed, or for anyone who helped them do it. I basically had to be on my toes for the rest of the semester in fear of being charged as an assistant to this assailant of justice. People from other dorms eventually heard about it and began sullying the good name of my building, calling it Shit Central and other hilarious names. They didn't just forget about him either. For the rest of the year, the Phantom Shitter became something of a legend. No one knew who it was, but they know what he did and what he's capable of. His legacy lives on in me, in you, but mostly in the shit smears he left trailing down the side of my dormitory. Those are a little bit harder to wash off. Too long didn't read brought a friend to a college party. Shit went down. Stained my building's reputation and my building. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe,